Hi everyone, so welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to discuss or demonstrate the building up of a small network if you are asked to do it in physical mode of the packet tracer. Earlier, we have been doing quite a lot in logical view or logical mode. So let us see how easy it is to work with the physical mode of the packet tracer when you are asked such questions. When you open the packet tracer activity, this is what you will see. So here, if you see, this is something called as a rack. This is called as a cable pegboard, and we also have a shelf. Whichever inventory is provided to you, that means a collection of routers, switches, or any other devices, all of them are first initially placed on the shelf. Based on the topology you are asked to build, or based on your question, you need to drag and drop these devices onto the shelf here. Okay, I'll show you. And if you want to have a better look, you can always zoom in onto these things so that you can see them much more clearly. First, let us investigate what is on the shelf. You can see there are a couple of multi-layer switches. And also, if you can see, all these devices are actually labeled. There it is. This is my multi-layer switch 1. This is a multi-layer switch 0, S1, switch 2, switch 1, R1, and these are some of the IoT components. And also we have a PCA, PCB, a mobile device, servers, and a TV. So these are all the devices that are placed on your shelf. And according to the requirement and the need given of your question, you have to select whichever devices are here, and then you have to create a topology. So do not get confused. This is actually quite easy to work with. So first, what I need is a PCA. If you see here, this is actually written down as PCA here. You can see a CPU, clearly. See, if you want, as I told you, better, if you are feeling convenient, you can zoom in and zoom out as you like. So you can see there is a PCA here. So just drag this and drop this onto the table. Similarly, this is how it looks like. So you just drop it onto the table, and you also need another PCB for your topology to be made. And I'm just dragging this also here. Okay. Yes. Now you need a S1, that is, which is a switch, and also a router R1 for your topology to be completed. If you look, you have different switches here, but this switch is clearly labeled as S1. So just drag this, and you have to place it onto the rack here. This is something called as a rack, where usually your devices are placed when you want to make the connections. Now drag the next R1, which is your router, onto the rack here. So you just initially placed all these devices, and you have to make the necessary connections. What do you mean by making the necessary connections? Okay, so you see that there are different types of cables here. If you just browse your mouse through, the light blue colored one is your regular console cable, and this is your copper straight through cable. This is your copper crossover cable, and this is your fiber optic cable. You can see a lot of cables are here: coaxial cable, octal cable, and this is IoT custom cable. This is just a regular USB cable. So according to the topology given here, you have to select the right cable for your connections. Now here I can see this is just, I can straight away use the straight through cable. So for that, you just click on the cable here. You just click on the cable, automatically your mouse will show you a small connecting thing, or RJ45. So the first thing you have to do is you have to connect it from PCA to S1. Let me start from the this point onwards, from PCA onwards. So from PCA, you have to connect to the switch S1, and you are also given which port to connect to. It is saying that you have to connect PCA to the F0/6 port of S1. So this is our PCA, and if I zoom in, okay, you can see that this is my fast Ethernet port. This is my RS-232 port. So I'm just connecting the switch to my fast Ethernet port, and you can see first, now when I select this port, it automatically turns into green color. Now let me come back to the switch here, and just if you keep browsing them, you can see all the names of the ports that are written over there. We want F0/6 port, right? You can see If you just browse on the ports here, you can see which port it is. You can see the F0/6 port. You simply click on that. Automatically, a cable disappears here, and you can see a cable that is connected from PCA to switch 1. So I initially made this connection. So I connected the fast Ethernet port of PCA to the F0/6 port of S1. My next step is connecting S1 to R1. So I have to connect another cable from F0/5 port of S1 to Z0/0/1 port of the router R1. I'm once again selecting another straight through cable. Now I keep browsing. I can see the F0 port here. You too could see on your screens. So just click on that port, come down to the router. If you just keep browsing the different ports, it will tell you this is an auxiliary port, this is the console port, this is your G0/00 port. You can see that. But you have to connect to the Z0/0/1 port, which is this one. So just click on that. You can see this. A connection has been made from switch S1 to the router R1's Z0/0/1 port. Okay, isn't it? Now, for the last end of the topology, I have to connect another cable from R1 to PCB. So let me see, I need to connect it to the Z0/0/0 port. So in some cases, when you feel difficulty to locate the port, you just simply zoom in onto the device. You can see it much more clearly, and you will be able to select that port easily. Just put it here. Okay. Z0/0/1 port, and we need to go to PCB, and you have to select the fast Ethernet port of the PCB. Usually, all the PCs have only one fast Ethernet port that we have been studying in our earlier sessions also. Just click on that. So now I have made all the connections that are required. I connected a PCA to S1, S1 to R1, R1 to PCB. But do remember that let us start going through the objectives and what is all asked out of us. Okay. So let me go through this. First, background scenario. And this is a comprehensive activity to review the iOS commands you have learned. In this physical mode activity, you will cable the equipment as shown in the topology. And after all the devices have been configured and network connectivity has been verified, you will use the iOS commands to retrieve information from the devices to answer questions about your network equipment. We will be doing that, no issues. So let me jump to instructions. It is saying that part 1, set up the topology, move the required router and switch from the shelf to the rack. We did that. Move the required PCs from the shelf to the table. I also placed the PCs. Cable the devices as shown in the topology and the addressing table. So based on this topology, I made the necessary connections. Now, this is the most important step which most of the students do forget. They forget this and they keep calling me up saying that what to do, sir. See, if you zoom in onto this router, you can see a small switch over here, power switch. You have to keep in mind that whenever you want to work with these devices, you have to power it on so that you can see that there is a small green light. Similarly, just like a router, you have to power on the PCs also for it to be recognized. Simply click on this button. Automatically, you can see a small green light coming up here. You can see on PCB, it's currently black. And if I just click on this orange colored button, it will automatically turn up into a green colored one. Now I have powered on all the devices that are there. So please do remember these steps. When you place the devices from the from the shelf to the rack, you have to power them on to get them to work. So done. Now it is saying that let's go to part 2, configure devices and verify connectivity. It is asking you in this part, you will set up the network topology and configure basic settings, just as the interface IP addresses, device access, and passwords. Now, step 1, assign static IP information to the PC interfaces. It is asking me first go on to PCA and configure the IP address, subnet mask, and the default gateway settings for PCA. Let me do that. So how would I know what is the IP address? Just go on to the routing table here. You can see this. This is the PCA. You can see. So let me click on PCA. It will automatically open up this particular view. So just let me go on to the desktop and go on to the IP configuration. Here you have to enter exactly whatever address is given in your addressing table. So let me do this 192.168. 168.1.3 colon. So automatically your IP subnet mask has been filled, auto-filled. Just you have to verify whether the subnet mask it has given is the right one or not. I have a /24, which is obviously 255.255.255.0. So this is absolutely right. So now let me add the default gateway, which is given to me in this table, 192.168.1.1. So, and please do not forget that you have to assign the IPv6 addresses also. IPv4 address is given, and we also have to enter the IPv6 address. Please ensure that you do not make any typing mistakes while entering the IPv6 addresses. ACAD colon 1 double colon 3 tab 64, which is your prefix length. And you see this is the default gateway for PCA for IPv6, FEAT double colon 1. So 2001 DB8 ACAD colon 1 double colon 3. So this is my PCA's IPv6 address and IPv4 addresses. So I assign the address. I'm closing PCA. Let me click on PCB and do the same IP configuration for PCB. Just to make sure that you don't get confused, just select this so that you will know which address you are typing. Okay. So let me go for IPv4 address 192.168.0.3 and subnet mask. Once again, please verify whether the subnet mask you get is the same one or not. Yes, because /24 is once again the same. And let me go to the default gateway, which is 192.168.0.1, and we have to issue the IPv6 address also, 2001 colon DB8 colon ACAD colon 364, and this is the default gateway for this is FEAT double colon 1. So I have assigned the IPv4 address, IPv6 address, and the default gateway for both IPv4 and IPv6 on both the PCs. I am done here. So let me close this off. Okay, so done. Let me see what is the next step that I need to go. It is asking me from a command prompt on window on PCA, ping PCB. This will not go because none of the other devices have been configured yet. So your prompts or your pings will not work. So for that, I need to configure the router as well as the switch. Now it is asking me configure the router. So, earlier we used to just connect the console cables, isn't it? So here also I'm going to do the same. For that, I'm going to select the console cable, which is the light blue colored one. And similarly, in our earlier, you can see that there's an RS-232 port on your PC. Just click on that RS-232 port, which gets selected, which indicates a green colored one. And then go on to the router, which you want to configure. And if you just keep browsing on these ports, you can see that there is a console port. You simply click on that. Now a console connection has been made from PCA to the router R1. So click on the PCA, usually just like how we did in the earlier cases when you are working with the logical mode, and click on terminal, click on OK, and you should now see the now when you are doing this, you will get a prompt like this asking you to enter the initial configuration dialog. Simply press no. You don't worry about that. Let us go in our own way. You can see the router prompt here. So now you are connected to the router, and whichever commands you are going to enter, you are going to use them for configuration of the router. So first is enable and then configure terminal. So I went to the user mode, then go to the privileged mode. Now I entered into the global configuration mode. Okay. So it is asking assign the device name to the router. The device name is R1. So what I do? Just type in host name R1, enter. And after that, it is asking me assign the class as the privileged executed encrypted password. So what is the command? Enable secret class. If you read the next two comments, it is asking me assign Cisco as the console password and enable login. Assign Cisco as the VTY password and enable login, which means that for both console access and remote access, I need to assign Cisco as the password. For that, what do? Line console 0, password Cisco, login, enter. Line VTY 0 to 15, enter. Password Cisco, enter. Login, enter. So I completed all these steps and it is now asking me encrypt the plain text passwords, create a banner, configure and activate both interfaces on the router. So let me do it stepwise. So exit, let me come out of this interface and it is asking me to encrypt all passwords. You know the command service password encryption. I am using tab so that it gets autofilled and saves a little bit of time for us. And then let me do the banner message of the day, unauthorized access is illegal. Okay, you can type anything here. Okay, so banner is also done. So I completed till H and it is now asking me to configure and activate both the interfaces of your router. So what are the interfaces of your router has? You can see in the addressing table, R1 has got two interfaces, right? Z0 by 0 and Z0 by 1. Now I have to enter or assign these IP addresses to these interfaces and then put them on. So for that, what you have to see is it is also asking configure an interface description for each interface indicating which device it is connected to it. So for that, what I do is first let me start with interface Z 0 by 0 by 0, enter. Let me put the description part, description. So on the router Z0 by 00 interface is connected to PCB. So I'm saying PCB connection. You can put anything in your description. It shouldn't make any difference. Okay. Now let me start assigning the IP addresses. IP address. Once again, my suggestion is to just select this thing so that you won't make any typing mistakes. IP address 192.168.0.1. What is the subnet mask? What is the subnet mask for /24? 255.255.255.0. Enter. And we also have to assign the IPv6 address also. For that, IPv6 address 2001 colon db8 colon acad double colon 1 slash 64 or prefix 64. Enter. And after that, please do not forget the third one, which is IP, which is the link local address. We have to assign that on the router as well. FE80 double colon 1 link local. Just press a tab there. It should autofill. Enter. And finally, no, shutdown. So I just completed only one interface and we have to do the same for the other interface also. So in that case, I'll just type in interface Z0 by 0 by 1, enter. And IPv4 address, I'll just using the up arrow so that it will save our time. 1.1, subnet mask is the same. And the next one is your IPv6 address 2001 db8 acad colon 1 double colon 3 double colon 1 slash 64. You can see this is the one which I typed. Okay, enter, enter. And then the same link local address we have to assign. So I'm doing it. I am using the up arrow here. So I completed that as well. And don't forget the description part. Description. What I have to do is this interface is now connected to S1. So I'll say S1 interface or S1 connection. You can type anything. And then comes the no shutdown. So I'm activating the interface. So all done on the router. And it is saying that in order to enable the routing, please put saying that enable IPv6 routing. So for that, the command that we use is IPv6 unicast routing. So this will enable the router now to understand IPv6 addresses, and will do the any routing based on IPv6 also. After that, save running configuration. So what I will do is I'll come out of this global configuration mode, and here I'll type in copy running command config to startup config. There you go. All done. And there is one more here. It is saying that set the clock on the router. So it is asking set the clock on the router. If you don't know, I will show you how to use this with a question mark. Okay. So let me start. Clock question. So it is asking me, you have to enter set. So set question mark. Now it is asking the next step is you have to enter the time in this format. So let me say 10. Randomly I'm giving 10, 10. So another question mark. Now it is asking me to enter the day of the month. So let me say November. Okay, and I will press question mark again. Day of the month, 22nd, and another question mark. Now it is asking me to enter the year. There you go. Clock set. I gave the date, month, and also the year. So R1 is done. It is asking me to check for the pings now. So we will try that. Anyhow, we are on PCA. So I'm closing it out. Go into the command prompt, and I'm trying to ping PCB. PCB's address is this. So ping 192.168.0.3. Enter. Let me see if the ping is successful or not. Hopefully it should go through. There you go. The ping is successful. So it's done. Now we are not still completed it. Now what you're saying is configure the switch. Now we have to configure the switch. For this, you can do two things here. So let me show you how it is done. Now, switch, if you zoom in, you will not find the console port. You will not find the console port here. All of these things are your different ports. Now, for that purpose, you just simply right click on the switch, and you can see a different options. Just click on inspect rear. Then you can see the console port at the rear of the switch. You can take another console cable, connect it to the another PC, which is from PCB to switch. You can do that also. Otherwise, there is a simple other way. I'll show you how to do that as well. You made a console connection here, right? You just click on the particular point here, and you can drag this cable to connect to this console port. Just how you do it in the physical world, that's all. You can see now the console cable is connected to the switch. Just drag and drop it, that's all. And you go to PCA, simply click on the terminal, click OK. Now you should see the switch font. You can see now it changed to switch. You can do this, or else if you can take another console cable, connect it from PCB's RS-232 port onto the console port of the switch. It's up to you. Any way you choose. It doesn't make a big difference. So let me click. And what is it asking me to do? It is asking me to configure the host name for the switch. So for that, enable configure terminal, and then host name S1, isn't it? Yes, host name is S1, and it is asking me to activate the VLAN interface. So interface VLAN 1, IP address 192.168.1.2 space. The subnet mask is the same, 255.255.255.0. Enter. No shutdown. Now it is asking me to configure the default gateway for switch S1. In that case, IP default gateway. It is given in your table itself. You can see this is the default gateway. This is your VLAN address, which is 192.168.1.1. Okay, just press enter. That is also done, and it is saying that Save the running configuration to the startup configuration. For that, just I will come out and copy running config to startup config. Enter. There you go. I think we are all done here. And let me close this off. So completion is 100%. It is saying that there are multiple show commands which we can use to display the routing tables on the router and also the interface information on the R1, which we have done earlier itself. So I'm not going to go into that. And here I want to show you just a couple of tricks. So now if you want to remove this cable, you can actually right click on it and you can delete it. Otherwise, you can simply remove this and put it back onto the shelf like that. That's all. And if you want to remove this also, you can simply drag it, drop it here. So the cable will be removed and the cable will be placed back in. Okay. So this is, you can do it. If you want to remove a connection also, you can just simply click on this. You can simply delete a cable there. So this is how you work with the physical mode of the packet tracer when you want to make a network connection. In the next video, I'll try another one of these physical mode packet tracer activities where we try to implement a VLSM scheme with a different topology. Till then, take care and good luck.